Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Govs on the Go Faculty Spotlight, a podcast featuring faculty in the College of Arts and Letters here at Austin Peay State University. My name is Dr. Buzz Hoon. I'm the Dean of the College. I'm also the host of the podcast. And today I'm talking with Katherine Honea, who is the professor in the Department of Languages and Literature here at Austin Peay. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So now, I say you're within the Department of Languages and Literature, but you are also a foreign language and specifically Spanish language and linguistics professor. But we'll get into a little bit about what you like to teach and how you like to teach. But I want to find out how you found your way to Austin Peay.
So I graduated from my PhD, and I think I applied to like 40 different schools. And this was probably one of two schools that picked me. And my partner and I love music, and we thought being close to Nashville sounded like a blast.
Yeah.
So I took the job and we moved to Nashville. I still live in Nashville. And I didn't think I would stay at Austin Peay because I'm from the West Coast. We are both from the West Coast. And so I thought this was kind of a stepping stone, and I would go and find a university on the West Coast. And here I am 12 years later, still here and happy and no intentions of leaving.
Oh, that's great. That's great for us. And we're glad, I always like to ask that question because no matter how you came here, the fact that you're here and you have this great relationship with our students, I appreciate that so much. And so one of the things, as I mentioned, is that you teach foreign language, specifically, again, Spanish language. But how did you come into find that you had an interest in it and later on and the ability to teach?
So I actually have my undergraduate degree in marketing.
Well-being.
Yeah, so I was a stockbroker for 2 years. And I made decent money, but I didn't have a lot of time, as I'm sure most stockbrokers don't. And my friend graduated from college, and she suggested that I take a hiatus and move to Chile with her. And we went to Chile. I did not speak Spanish. Maybe I had the equivalent of a semester under me. And we moved there for a year, and I had the best time of my life. And I thought, this is what I want to do. I don't want to be a stockbroker. So I came back and started prerequisites to get into the master's program in Sacramento, and took my first linguistics class in Spanish, and thought, this is it. I want to do Spanish linguistics, and I want to be a professor. And so from there, I applied to my PhD program and started teaching at the graduate. I taught undergraduates, but I started teaching as a graduate student and just loved it. Took a teaching methodologies course, and just thought, this is what I want to do. I want to be at a teaching university and teaching students about linguistics and Spanish.
Well, that's quite the career change for you. So you found it in this particular way, but can you talk a little bit about why it's so important for our students to also be able to speak in other languages and to know other languages?
Sure. Yeah. So, number one, learning another dialect or another language, it has cognitive benefits. So, students or people who know more than one language or even more than one dialect score higher on cognitive tests. So that, number one, is if you want cognitive advantage or you want to get smarter in your adult life, learn a language. I also think that because we have 45 million Hispanic people in the United States, I think speaking Spanish is a really important skill, and not only in your professional life, but just to kind of connect to more communities and more people in the United States. And not being able to connect to people through language sometimes means that you're missing out on a lot of culture, because culture and language are so intertwined and interconnected. So I think it's a really important skill.
Absolutely. And now, you, in your classes, how do you make sure that the students that as they're learning, how do you make sure that they're utilizing the skills that they're learning in your class? How are they practicing? Are they really using the language skills that they're coming upon?
Yes. So we kind of approach our classes with both a cultural and a language aspect. Because, again, they're intertwined. So culturally, we encourage them to get involved in the community. So we do things like connect with the Latino Resources Center here on campus. There are different events that we ask our students to go to. There are events that sometimes happen in Nashville or here in Clarksville and the broader community, and so sometimes we'll offer our students credit to go and participate in those. So that's kind of how we make sure they're trying to connect culturally.
Oh, nice.
And then from a linguistic or language perspective, we use an approach in class called task-based. So students start speaking in Spanish from day one. They're terrified. But I kind of run around. I think I told you earlier, I use a lot of gestures, and I'm very silly from day one, so it makes everybody comfortable in the classroom. And so they're speaking on day one, and then, excuse me, we do activities throughout the year. So we have, sometimes we have a language culture fair in the spring for all 1,000 and 2,000 level students. So they have a very scripted, I guess, instructions on what they can do, but all the students from all classes get together one day, and they can only speak in Spanish, and they prepare a presentation on a specific country, they bring food, and then they go around and ask specific questions to the other tables. So all our students in 1,000, 2,000 level are doing the same thing, but representing different countries. And it's been a really rewarding experience because it kind of creates this community with our 1,000 and 2,000 level students, and they're all the same level in terms of their proficiency, so they don't feel as nervous speaking to each other because they know none of them can speak really well. So we do that. I think last semester I also connected with one of our local schools, Barksdale, who does a Spanish immersion program. So all our advanced Spanish students went and gave presentations in all the immersion classes. It was a really good experience for the students. And we're trying to work on building kind of a relationship with that school and have internships where our students go in there throughout the school year and help out the teachers. So.
Is it easier for a student that's been through a different language program in high school, or even for one that has been an immersion program like the one that's here in Clarksville, is it almost too late for somebody in their college years to start? I mean, obviously, you learned at a later year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hope not. 'Cause I didn't start till I was 23.
That's good.
So, and I consider myself bilingual. I think that when you learn and start language learning as an adult, there's going to be more issues like accent. You might have more of a stronger accent, right? But you can still acquire language. I think one of the biggest factors in acquiring language is motivation. So if you're motivated to do it, you can do it.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay. One of the interest areas that you have is also in social linguistics that you talked about. Can you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about that?
Yeah, so sociolinguistics is kind of the same thing I've been talking about, this connection between, I guess, culture and language. So we know that the way we speak is influenced by things like race, socioeconomic status, region, gender. And so sociolinguistics is really looking at how all those things play a role in the way we speak. And so within sociolinguistics, I look at language change and variation. So I look at how language is changing based on all these factors, right? So not just the social factors like gender, socioeconomic status, but also grammatical and linguistic factors too. But how those all play a role in how we speak.
So it's sort of like when people talk about the Spanish language and people that speak both Spanish and English sometimes will go back and forth between those. Is that becoming sort of a different type of, or another version of language, or is that part of what you study is, again, how it's evolving and changing?
So what you're talking about is what we call code switching. And so that typically only happens among people who are highly bilingual. So they're dominant in 2 or more languages, and they're speaking with another highly bilingual person. And so they're able to kind of switch back and forth between 2 languages. Typically, we wouldn't say that, so a lot of people call this Spanglish,
yes,
right? Spanglish is not a new language. It's really just highly bilingual people kind of using the language within one conversation. But it is not developing into a new language. But English does have a large effect on the way we speak Spanish because of our borders, right? So we have lots of borrowings from Spanish in the English language and English words in the Spanish. And we actually have several dialects in the United States that are arising because of Spanish contact. So we have a new English dialect in, I think, South Carolina, due to all the immigrants from Central America coming. And we also have a new dialect of Spanish in that same area because we have all these people from different Spanish-speaking countries coming to this community in South Carolina and kind of mixing their varieties, and it's creating this new variety of Spanish in the United States, which we have several of, by the way.
Okay, well that's interesting. Now, the normal, many people like myself, I would think I would probably not notice that as much, but when you go out and you're traveling and you're out across the United States, are you listening and hearing those kind of accents or changes or how language has been evolving?
Yes. My friends and I call it nerding out. We get nerded out on linguistics, but yes, we're constantly kind of listening and just, I guess, paying attention to the way people speak, right? Yeah. Things like Chicano English and Southern American, not South American, but Southern, like in the Southwest. English is highly influenced by Spanish, and there's so many words and even pronunciations that we use that just come from Spanish, and it's really cool, and vice versa. So the Spanish we see that's spoken down there is highly influenced by English, right? And I think one of my goals as a linguistics professor is to kind of show value in that, because sometimes, especially Spanish students that live in the United States and grow up speaking Spanish, think that their Spanish is broken or not correct because they grew up in the United States. And so I take pride in showing them that the Spanish varieties that exist in the United States are valid varieties, and they're just as complex as any other Spanish variety. They're just new, right? And so I give them lots of examples. Like, for example, there's a word called carpeta, right? So in Spanish, in standard Spanish, carpeta means file, right? But in American Spanish, carpeta means carpet, right? So we know that that word is borrowed from the English word carpet, right? So maybe a Spanish speaker from another country would say, that's broken Spanish, that's incorrect. And I point out that the word in Spanish for carpet, which is alfombra, is a word that comes from Arabic. So they had the same word. They borrowed the word from another language at some point in history. That's what language is we are constantly borrowing and bringing in new words. So carpeta isn't incorrect, it's just a new way to describe the word carpet as a result of the contact with English, right?
Well, now I'm completely interested in taking one of your classes. And I think it's, again, great that you try to connect our students not only with the language but also the cultural aspects of that. I think that's a very great way for them to learn it and also to remember it. So, yeah. And thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to all of our listeners and viewers out there for joining us. We will continue to profile some of the outstanding professors we have here in the College of Arts and Letters at Austin Peay State University. So until next time, stay safe, take care, and God bless.